right, Washington Post political reporter Ed O'Keefe is with us now from Milwaukee to talk a little bit about this upcoming debate. You heard Carson there responding once again to these questions about the story of his upbringing. You know, what do you make of Carson's statement there?
I think Dr. Carson's starting to learn what political journalism kind of ends up doing to presidential candidates. Look, you investigate their background, you try to figure out who they are and what they did and who they knew, and you know, things like that. That's what the American people want to know. That's what they expect, and that's simply what's going on here. Now, some of it has panned out, some of it hasn't. But this is what happens to leading presidential candidates, and as he surged into the lead, the scrutiny has grown, and he's beginning to realize it can be pretty relentless.
And Ed, you know, Dr. Carson's criticism has been that he is being vetted more so than other candidates who have run for president in the past, including President Obama, have been vetted. But that doesn't really hold up really as well, right? I mean, we recall Hillary Clinton saying that she came under sniper fire in Bosnia. People picked that apart. The president had numerous details from his biography picked apart by reporters while he was still a candidate. Is that not so?
That's right. Whether it's President Obama back in 2008, Hillary Clinton with her biography, go back to Gary Hart, Joe Biden, you know, all sorts of candidates through the years, Herman Cain in 2012, all of them have faced scrutiny of one kind or another. Part of it is how they respond to that pressure, and part of it is whether it pans out. In this case, look, it appears to be helping him. You know, millions of dollars have been raised since these reports surfaced, and he continues to hold a lead in the polls. A new one yesterday in South Carolina suggests he's doing just fine. So whether he decides to continue criticizing the media or perhaps answer some of these questions so that the investigations stop, we'll see.
Okay, so let's look ahead to the debate then. You know, this debate is supposed to be only about the issues, focusing on the economy, but leading up to the debate, we've all been talking about this Ben Carson situation. So if you were advising him, I mean, should he take you know, is it the best defense is a good offense? Should he just sort of tackle it head on in the debate or try not to bring it up at all?
He's more likely to continue doing what he's been doing, which is to say, I'm not going to, you know, answer those types of questions. I'm not going to attack my opponents. I'm here to answer substantive questions. If substantive questions are asked, however, it'll be interesting to see whether the candidates actually answer those substantive questions or whether they use the opportunities to attack each other or perhaps clarify their personal record. I think that's part of this. They may want substantive questions to be asked, but whether they answer them is another thing. I think if you're Carson, you want to do no harm at this point. You're sitting there on the top. You've been raising millions of dollars. There's no reason to believe, at least this week, that, you know, his lead is shrinking at all or that the scrutiny is hurting him. So, you know, show up, answer some questions, take the heat, and try to move on, keep your head down, and hope that nothing serious happens that would somehow challenge that lead.
And let's talk Marco Rubio. He is in the rearview mirror of Dr. Carson and Donald Trump. He's seen gains in the polls since the last debate. In fact, a lot of people have graded his debate performances over the last three very, very well. Can he keep that up?
Well, that's certainly his hope. There's this report in the New York Times today about how the super PAC that supports Jeb Bush is thinking about coming up with ways to attack him on even things like his abortion record. That's notable because, you know, that's not something that Republicans normally do to each other. Already this morning, you're seeing his supporters, his staff sort of suggest, you know, is this really what Jeb Bush wants to do again? It didn't work last time. Is it going to work this time? So we'll see. I mean, clearly he's enjoyed a bit of a surge in recent weeks. I think the desire here tonight is to deliver another command performance and sort of calcify that understanding or that belief that among those so-called establishment candidates or those that aren't the big outsiders with big outsized personalities, he's the guy potentially who could rise and become the nominee or at least the alternative to Carson and Trump. But they're relishing this apparent plan of attack by the Bush camp as evidence that, you know, they're worried about him and that Jeb Bush is doing anything he can to somehow revive his candidacy.
Yeah, Ed, I guess with this new attack campaign from those super PACs of Jeb Bush, we know that Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment has gone out the window. Thou shalt not criticize any Republican. Ed O'Keefe in Washington, thank you. Ed O'Keefe from the Washington Post. Thanks so much, Ed.
Well, stick with CBSN tonight. We will have full coverage of the fourth Republican debate starting at 7 p.m. Eastern and more analysis tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. Eastern.